Listen, guys, I'm Alex Angelo with you again, and I haven't been active for some little while, but because I was really busy with the errands and everything else, and at the same time, I was really busy with writing my book, actually finishing my book, and now currently I'm trying to actually start publishing the book, and that was quite time consuming, to be honest with you. But at the same time, I was preparing new subjects, spiritual aspects, subjects for you and for my YouTube channel as well. Well, first of all, for those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself to you. I'm Alex Angelo. I'm a spiritual life coach, spiritual guide, tarot, and astrology specialist. So in my practices, I use the tarot card and astrology in order to be able to help and give the most insightful guidance into the situations that people are going through on a daily basis, whether it is relationship aspect, the career choice, or just life choices that comes along our path. So life coaching incorporated with astrology and tarot have been showing great progress in my practices throughout the 11 years that I've been actually doing this. And that's why I've decided now to create my YouTube channel to share with my experiences with you and to explain to you how you can benefit from tarot and astrology incorporated with life coaching or even psychology, which we call it in this term parapsychology, which is paranormal psychology, the abilities of subconscious mind to connect with the tools like tarot and astrology in order to be able to see much clearer kind of scenario of the life situation. Now, that was a little bit of information about myself for those of you who are new to my channel. Now, today, I am actually going to touch a very specific and important subject, which is, I believe, going to be very interesting for those of you who are interested in esoterics, who are interested in spirituality, and of course, in astrology at this point, because our subject will directly be related to astrology today. And actually, I would like to talk about the Primal Triad in astrology. So for those of you who are acquainted to astrology, you know that there are 12 signs, there are 12 houses, and also 7 planets that actually rotate around our chart. So what is the astrology and what is the natal birth chart? The natal birth chart is actually the map of our soul. So some people think that the natal chart can predict the future. It can show us the patterns of the future at some point, but the main purpose of using the natal birth chart or natal chart in our practices is to be able to understand ourselves better, to understand our inner impulses, and also help us to understand our advantages or disadvantages of our personality, in which areas of our life we are quite strong, we are quite gifted, and in which areas of our life we may not be that experienced or we may not be that strong to face the challenges. And the natal chart, of course, helps us to kind of disclose all of this. The natal chart can also show us the hidden aspects, the hidden talents, the gifts, or also our weak points, let's say that, of our personality, and helps us how to kind of manage them. Now, what is the Primal Triad? You probably heard about your sun sign, your rising sign, and your moon sign, right? So in astrology, we call that Primal Triad. So a lot of people, when I talk to them on a daily basis, and specifically people who are kind of interested in astrology but don't know the depth of astrology and don't know the magnificent knowledge that astrology holds, think that, let's say that our sun sign is the main aspect of our personality. So I hear that on a daily basis, probably just like you do, like, oh, what is your sign, by the way? Are you Leo? Are you Libra? Are you Scorpio? Are you Pisces? So in fact, yes, it can kind of give some sort of a little information up to like 15 to 20% of the person's patterns or behavioral patterns and of their nature and personality. But this is not the end. It only gives us a very little, let's say, that information about the person. In fact, in order to be able to understand who we are talking to and who we are interacting with, we should actually get to know closely their sun sign, their moon sign, and their rising sign. So their sun sign astrology is actually their core sign, which is their identity and who they are and how they acknowledge themselves and how they behave. Their moon sign, which is also very important, just like the sun sign, is how they perceive everything emotionally, how they digest everything emotionally, their emotional behavior, how they respond to the life situations emotionally, as well as their rising sign is actually their image in the society and how others and the people and the environment perceive them. So when we know these three main signs of the person, then we can actually tell already who's standing in front of us and what this person wants, what this person likes and doesn't like, which is I very encourage my clients always to kind of try to dig a little bit deeper to find out about this primal triad of the person that they're communicating with, so that they can get to know them better and understand what to expect from that person and actually how to operate with this person. Now, but there's one very big misconception. So let's say that if your sun sign is a Leo and your moon sign, let's say that is Scorpio, and your rising sign is Scorpio. So at this point, what happens is that your moon sign and your rising sign, which are two main aspects of the primal triad, as I mentioned before, can actually suppress your core sign, your sun sign of a Leo, which means that even though you may say to people, you may tell them that you're a Leo because basically your sun sign is Leo, but your behavior and the way of you thinking, the way you're responding to the situations, the way you're like emotionally digesting or emotionally kind of processing everything may not be exactly the same way as, let's say that Leos do, and people may get a bit confused and they were like, oh, you don't really look like Leo, or you don't sound like Leo, or you don't behave like Leo. Well, that's because actually if your rising and your moon sign, let's say that are the double sign, are the same signs. Let's say, again, in this situation, I'm bringing you a very simple example, which is the sun sign and the core identity is the Leo, but the moon sign and the rising sign are both in Scorpio. So at this point, the person will definitely have more of a features and the behavioral patterns of a Scorpio, not the Leo. Maybe look-wise at some point, they may be like, or at some point with their identity or with their behavior, there might be some flashes of the Leo in them, of course, but mainly because there are two Scorpios in their primal triad. So those Scorpios somehow suppress the energy of the sun and actually putting out their more behavioral aspects of the Scorpio. In other words, to say, you may be Leo, you may be very creative, you may be wanting to be in the center of attention, you may have a pride, or you may be kind of into sports a lot, and you like entertainment, you like being surrounded by the people around you, being right in the center of attention. Yet again, you may prefer to be in your private time more. You may prefer to be like behind the scenes more, not maybe just be so extroverted as the real core sign of a Leo would do. Or maybe your thinking way and your the way of your processing everything might be very deep. You might actually seem to be a lot more emotional than the regular Leos are. You might be very kind of deep in your emotions. You might love to dig things. You might love to investigate everything, which is kind of a little bit contradicts the Leo's nature, because as we know, Leos are more extroverted sign. But again, we always should take into consideration the sun sign and the rising sign, because if those two signs are, let's say that both of them kind of the same sign as, like in my example I just brought you, which is two Scorpios, the moon and the rising sign is in Scorpio and the sun sign is in Leo. So we are definitely dealing with a more of a Scorpio. 80-85% the person has the behavioral patterns of a Scorpio, how the Scorpio responds to the situations, how the Scorpios sort out the problems, how the Scorpios are tend to kind of dive into their situations in their own way rather than the Leo does. But the same thing will actually go to, let's say that if you happen to have two Leos in your primal triad and one Scorpio, which means that your sun sign is Leo and your moon sign is Leo. So here at this point, of course, the Scorpio energy is being more suppressed. So at this point, we can say that actually, yes, you are more of a real Leo. Up to 80-85% you may be acknowledged, and your behavioral patterns are very similar to the natural Leo's behavioral pattern. So at this point, when there are two main planets, which is the sun and the moon, then they are actually at this point suppressing your rising sign. And yes, you might still have some behavioral patterns or the features of Scorpio, but they're not going to be as obvious, they're not going to be as expressed as it would be if your rising and your moon sign both would be Scorpio, and your sun sign, your core sign, would be Leo. Now let's talk about another thing. So let's say that if all three signs are different signs, which means your sun sign isn't Leo, your moon sign is in Scorpio, and your rising sign is in Cancer. So at this point, before jumping actually into conclusion and trying to confuse ourselves, because there are three signs and all three aspects are coming together, and that creates that some triplicity of confusion for us, I highly recommend you at this point to take a look at the elements. Which elements are actually in this primal triad are kind of dominating? As we know, the Scorpio and the Cancer both belong to the water elements, which means that yes, you may be like kind of a Leo, but still the both two of the main three, let's say that primal triads, still belong to the water signs, which again, as we know, Cancerians as well as the Scorpios are more introverted, are more like tend to stick around to their comfort zone, stick around to their routines, and not being so expressive. So at this point, before jumping into just like putting all the three different sides of this moon, sun, and the rising together, and just going into over analyzing, oh, how am I supposed to interpret this? So pay attention to the elements. So if there are two water elements and one fire element, it still means that the energy of the water elements in the primal triad will take over and will dominate the fire element, which means that again, so at this point, the first thing we can say, for example, if the person in front of you was the Leo by sun, Scorpio by moon, and the Cancer by rising sign, which means that the person might be quite expressive, the person might be wanting to be in the center of attention. He might like entertainment, he might like to be surrounded by people, but yet again, you might notice that he's not that sociable, he's not that talkative, or he may look very mysterious to you, like he's maybe analyzing and going through something in his mind, and he may not seem to be that extroverted, which is, again, he may be extroverted, but because two water sign elements are making him more emotional rather than less let's say that driven, then this two signs of a water element are actually suppressing the element of the fire. So at this point, we can interpret it this way. If somebody is Leo in sun, moon in Scorpio, and the rising in Cancer, we can start like, yes, you may be a very creative person and you actually love expressing yourself through creativity, but considering your moon is in Scorpio, you may also be quite introverted and analyzing and keeping things to yourself, yet again being very spiritual and investigating everything, loving the mystery, loving something that is unseen or that is something that is not clear, love actually going deep into the depth of the matter at this point, and you may be expressing yourself in a very mystical way, in a very kind of a shadowy way that people may be still wondering, oh wow, he is really interesting, he's really attractive, he's definitely has that aura of a Leo in him, but at the same time there's some sort of mysticism, there's some sort of mystery and like the closeness from the surrounding in him, and they may wonder, why are you so mystical, or why are you so kind of all into yourself? But at this point, you may not be able to explain it to them, because if you don't know the aspects of astrology, or you don't have enough information about astrology, for you that would be like, oh, well, I don't really know, but I heard that Leos are very extroverted and they are very sociable, but I'm not that type of person. And that's why I'm telling you is that just knowing your sun sign would not be enough actually to analyze the person better and understanding what they want. Specifically, if it's your partner, your friend, your siblings, your parents, it is always better to find out their primal triad in order to analyze their personality, and that will give you a lot more information about who this person is in front of you. So now let's continue. Now that we figured out that the moon is in Scorpio does mean that the person might be very kind of mysterious and very intuitive, very deep in emotions, unlike the Leos are. And that's what that gives that strong impulses or the strong sense of energy to the surrounding of the Leo, like with this mysteriousness going on around. But then here we have the rising of a Cancer, which is another introverted water sign, which means that the Cancers may not be that trusting. Like they will always, and specifically if there's a Scorpio in the moon, they will, before trusting you, before actually showing to you their core sign, their expressiveness, their extrovertedness, they will have to put you through some sort of challenges to see if you are going to pass their test, if you will be able, if they are actually able to trust you fully. And if you take this time to actually get to know these people better without putting any pressure, because don't forget, the water signs do not like no pressure and no control. They are introverted. It's like there's like a very big wall in that you need to go through in order to be able to reach the soul or the heart of the water signs, whether it is Scorpio, Pisces, or Cancer. But once you earn that trust of a Leo with 2 water signs in his or in her primal triad, then this person will definitely be more open to you, and they can eventually even be able to be open with you about their insecurities or about their disadvantage that they have. It's all about having or taking enough time and being patient with these people, and in order to be able to get to know them better. Now, another example that I would bring, like if your sun sign is Leo, but your moon sign and your, let's say that rising sign is in Virgo. So again, just like we discussed earlier, it means that your moon and the rising can suppress the creativity, can suppress the expressiveness of Leo, and actually make him more goal-oriented, more specific about the task that they're doing, more probably career or job-oriented people, and in some ways even perfectionist, which means that yes, they can be very expressive as Leos, they can be very creative as Leos, but they will be also very detailed about everything that they're doing. They may have that incredible ability of, putting everything in the boxes and sorting everything out in their life in a very detailed way, because here we have 2 grounded earth signs, which dominates the fire sign of Leo. So, but let's say that if your sign is the Leo in sun, Sagittarius in moon, and Aries rising, here we have the triplicity of fire signs. So this is definitely a very extroverted person. This is definitely a person who wants to be in the center of attention. This is definitely a very driven person, and there's definitely a very big rush of energy in him. And they're really usually on the go, because 3 fire signs create the trine and triplicity, which is basically making them very proactive, which is basically making them very pushy, very driven, and goal-oriented, and even courageous at this point. So again, my point is that before jumping into conclusion, just by asking the person what is your sun sign, you need to understand that it will give you only up to 10 to 15% of understanding who is standing in front of you, or what they like, what they don't like, because the moon sign and the rising signs are also as important as the sun sign to understand what is going on inside of the person, to understand why they're having this image to them. So by understanding this, all the primal triad, let's say that an astrological aspect of natal or birth chart, you will be able to understand who is this person, how this person is processing the emotions, or how they're responding emotionally, their emotional response to the situations, and why they are having this kind of image in the eyes of the others. So that's why before jumping again into just trying to figure out who is standing in front of you, always pay attention to this primal triad. And again, pay attention to the elements that are dominating in this primal triad. Pay attention to the signs that are, dominating in the primal triad, and of course put the aspects and the quality of the signs together with the aspects of the elements, and then you can understand actually why the person may be a Leo, but they seem to more behave like a Scorpio, or they must seem to more behave like a Virgo or any other sign. It's because the majority of the energy is being accumulated in the element, in the other element, not the element of fire of Leo, but in other elements of earth, water, or maybe even air. And that actually tells us a lot more why even the person is Leo, but they don't typically behave like Leo. Well, I hope that, guys, it was very interesting for you actually to find out a little bit more about little exceptions in the global astrology, because a lot of astrologers don't talk about this, but this is why. So when we meet people and when we ask their signs, and then we're like, oh, I've met a lot of Leos, but you don't behave like one. It's not because the person does not really believe in astrology. It's not about the belief system. They may not believe in it at all. It's about what elements and what sign qualities are dominating in them. And that's what puts their whole image together. Well, if you happen to have any questions about your natal chart, about your primal triad, feel free to comment below this video as well. And if you found this video kind of helpful for you, because in this video I tried to give you a little bit of exceptional information in astrology that majority of the astrologers or the spiritual guides do not talk about, which is actually, I think, quite important to mention and to talk about the subjects like this. And if you found this video kind of helpful for you or interesting, please don't forget to put the like button for me, comment below, ask your questions if you happen to have any questions about astrology, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more interesting spiritual content that is I am preparing for you and will be ready in the very near future. At this point now, stay well, and I'll see you soon.